Welcome back, everyone, to a new story. We really hope you enjoy it. After the call, I slowly put my phone down, barely able to hold myself together. I had just been called by my landlord again. This time I was told that if I didn't pay my rent within the next 3 days, I would get kicked out. I just didn't know what I could do anymore. If I couldn't find somewhere else to stay soon, I would be alone and homeless, living on the streets. Let me give some backstory. My name is Jack, and I'm currently unemployed. I've been looking for a job for some time now, but due to my poor qualifications and criminal history, I can't find anyone who would hire me. I'm 39 years old, and to put it lightly, have had a pretty rough life. I grew up in an incredibly poor household with parents who sadly didn't care for me. In my teenage years, I grew rebellious because of how I was treated, leading me to make some poor choices that I wish I could take back. Unfortunately, though, I can't, and now I'm probably going to become homeless because of them. I only had myself to blame, though. I had made so many poor choices in my life. I began trying to call some of my friends looking for a place to stay when I got kicked out. Unfortunately, no one had any space. Either that or they told me they didn't want me there. I walked over to the single couch in my apartment and sat down. I tried thinking of something I could do to help my situation, but I had nothing. Eventually, feeling defeated, I just left my apartment to go for a walk, aiming to distract myself from my inevitable fate. The walk was quite nice, to be fair. It was mid-afternoon, and the sun was beginning to go down, making for some nice views. It gave me a good opportunity to reflect on everything. Eventually, I did head back to my apartment, though. I was planning on having something for dinner, but decided against it. I was going to need all the money I could get. I decided to watch some TV instead. I really should have been doing something more productive, especially considering how dire my situation was. I think I had just given up, though. I had accepted my fate, that I would end up homeless. I just didn't see how else I could get out of this. My rent was months behind, and I had nowhere near enough money to pay for another month. All I could do was patiently wait to be kicked out. I watched TV for far longer than I should have, probably around 4 hours of it. By this point, it was beginning to get late, so I decided to just go to bed. Maybe the next day I could come up with something to help me. I went to my bedroom, undressed, and then slid into bed. I didn't fall asleep straight away, though. As I laid there, I dreamt about how my life would have been if I had grown up with loving parents in a good home. Maybe things wouldn't have ended up so bad for me. Just before I fell asleep, I made a wish to myself. I wish I could just go back in time to when I was a child and start over with better parents, I quietly said to myself. Unbeknownst to me, though, a shooting star had passed over my apartment as I had made my wish. I had no idea what would be happening to me the next morning as I slowly fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up like normal, except this time something felt off. When I opened my eyes, I was shocked to see a room that didn't look anything like the room I had gone to sleep in. I started looking around the room, struggling to work out what had happened. As I looked around, I realized that the room I was in likely belonged to a girl, making things even more confusing for me. I eventually looked down at the bed I was in and saw my body. I froze as I instantly realized it was not my body, not the body I had gone to bed in. My mind was racing as I tried to work out what on earth had happened to me. I was in shock, barely able to even move. Eventually, I decided I had to work out what had happened, so I got out of the bed. When I saw the rest of the body I was in, I was shocked. I was a girl, and not just that, I was also much younger than I was the previous day. I spent a while looking at my new body. It was so weird being in such a young and small body. Eventually, I decided I had to do something. After looking around the room some more, I saw a mirror, which I decided to go and have a look at. I stood up and walked over to it, wondering what I was about to see. After seeing my reflection, I was pretty shocked. I was a young girl, no older than 16. I couldn't believe it. I tried to think about what could have caused something like this. And that's when I remembered the wish I had made the previous night. I was in disbelief. Could my wish really have caused something like this? I usually wouldn't have thought so, but I couldn't think of what else could have caused this. While I was still looking at myself in the mirror, I heard a door open behind me. I turned around to see a middle-aged woman come into the room. I had no idea what to say or do, so I stayed quiet. The woman, however, did begin to speak. "Hey, Zoe, you better start getting ready for school. You will have to leave soon," she said. Judging by the way she spoke, I assumed she was the mom of the girl who I now was. "Oh, okay, Mom, thanks," I said back. The woman then left the room, and I thought about what she said. My name was apparently now Zoe, and I had to get ready for school. I mean, it made sense. I wasn't sure exactly how old I was, but I definitely looked like I would be in school. I had no idea where to get started with preparing for school. It wasn't something I had done in over 20 years. After some looking around the room, I found what looked like a girls' school uniform on a cabinet. I also found what looked like a schedule for each day of the week. The schedule gave me a bunch of useful information I would need to know if I was going to pretend to be this girl. I also found the girl's phone on the cabinet too. I unplugged it and was able to get into it using the Face ID. After some time, looking through things on the phone, I decided to put the school uniform on, and then see what else I had to do. I had to take off the pajamas that I had had on since waking up, which felt really weird. I was super uncomfortable undressing this body, but I had to put on the uniform. Eventually, I was done, and I started putting the uniform on. It was unlike anything I had ever worn. It consisted of a skirt with a tight-fitting shirt. I also had to wear a pair of long socks with some weird-looking shoes. Eventually, I had it all on, and I decided to leave the room I had woken up in for the first time. I walked over to the door and then cautiously opened it. I then looked through and was surprised by what I saw. It was easily the nicest house I had ever seen. The room I had come out from was on the second of 2 floors of a massive house. I was shocked by how fancy everything looked. It was really impressive. I walked around for a few moments until I saw my new mom again. She walked over to me and started speaking. "Oh, Zoe, did you not do your hair? Come back to your room, I'll quickly do it for you," she said to me before bringing me back to my room. She then made me sit down in front of a desk that had a bunch of makeup and stuff on it. She then picked up a brush and started using it on my hair. It wasn't very comfortable, but I didn't complain. After some time, she finished and told me I would have to leave soon to catch the school bus. I grabbed a school bag that was in the room and put the textbooks I saw inside of it. I then left the house. As I was walking away from the house, I couldn't help but turn to look at it. It was incredible, much nicer than the house I grew up in. I was starting to think the situation I was in might not be so bad. After a few moments of waiting in front of the home, a bright yellow school bus arrived, stopping in front of the driveway I stood on. I then got on the bus. I obviously didn't know anyone else on the bus, so I sat down alone at the front. The bus ride to the school was pretty uneventful. I spent some time looking through my phone, trying my best to learn as much about the girl I was so I wouldn't do anything dumb. I spent a while looking through social media and messages that had been sent to and from the phone. By the time the bus was arriving into school, I felt like I had learned enough to not seem suspicious. After arriving at the school, I started looking for my first class. When I got there, I walked in and quickly looked around. There were 2 other girls in the corner of the room who gestured to me to come to them. I recognized them both as I had seen them while scrolling through social media. I walked over to them and greeted them. They were both really friendly, and I actually got on with them surprisingly well considering who I really was. It was a math class that we were in, which I found really easy. I had learned all of the stuff taught there many years ago. It made the class fairly relaxing for me. The class lasted for 2 hours and was over fairly quickly. We then had a 30-minute morning break before our next class. I spent the break chatting with the other 2 girls from the math class. I was honestly starting to really enjoy hanging out with them. When the break was over, it was time for my next class. I left the 2 girls and went to find the room where I had to be. It was a chemistry class, which wasn't too bad. I didn't know anyone in the class this time, though. I ended up just sitting at the back of the room just trying to do the work. Once again, it wasn't too complicated for me. I was able to breeze through the majority of the questions the teacher gave to me. This class was also 2 hours long like the last one, so I was pretty relieved when it finally ended. It was now time for the school's lunch break. I got a call from one of the girls on my phone who I had been with earlier. She told me to come and join her and the other girl in a park next to the school. I listened to her instructions and eventually found them, hanging out with them for the rest of the lunch break. As the break was coming to an end, I took my schedule out of my bag and had a look to see what my last class was. The schedule said my last class was a cheerleading class, something I instantly knew I was not going to enjoy. I said goodbye to the two girls and started walking to the school's gym where the class was supposed to take place. When I got there, I looked around and eventually found the cheerleading coach. I decided I would tell her I hadn't brought my cheerleading kit, which, to be fair, wasn't a lie. I had no idea I had this class, and therefore hadn't brought any clothes with me. I was hoping it would mean I wouldn't have to do any cheerleading. When I spoke to the coach, she told me that it was no issue and that I could borrow one for the day. She then went and got me a bag with a kit inside it. I was then told to go and get changed, which I eventually did. I didn't feel comfortable changing in the girls' changing rooms, so instead I went and got dressed in one of the bathroom cubicles. The cheerleading kit consisted of a blue leotard and some white trainers. I undressed out of the school uniform and slowly put on the leotard. I really didn't like how it felt wearing it, but I didn't really have much of a choice. I eventually left the bathroom and went into the gym hall where the coach and other girls were. The class was not enjoyable for me at all. I really struggled with all of the moves and dances we had to do. It was honestly really embarrassing for me. Near the end of the class, the coach scolded me for how badly I had done, which made me feel awful. She told me that I had been so much better the previous week. Unfortunately, I wasn't the same person who had been here the previous week, so her criticism didn't really work. Eventually, the class did end, meaning it was time to go home. I went back to the bathroom cubicles to change back into my school uniform. Once I was back in the uniform, I left the gym and walked over to where the bus was supposed to leave from, and then got on board. After a few minutes of waiting, the bus began moving. As I rode home, I thought about everything that had happened to me since yesterday. I still couldn't believe my wish had come true, even if it wasn't how I had wanted it to. I never expected the wish to come true, but to be fair, I was glad that it had, even if it did mean I had become a girl. Living as a girl would take a lot of getting used to and commitment, but I was sure I could do it. I was also really pleased with my parents. My new mom, who I had seen this morning, was really friendly towards me. I was hoping my dad would be the same. I hadn't seen him this morning. For now, though, I was really happy. I had been given another opportunity in life after all. This time, I would make sure my life goes to plan properly. I would try to make the right decisions and do well in school. I was sure that if I put the effort in, I would do well. It was a fantastic feeling. I couldn't wait to see what my future would look like. Thanks for watching this video. More videos will be coming very soon. We would really appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe to our channel to support us. Thanks for watching.